What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of V4 Higurashi, When They Cry Go. This is episode 4. V as always, I have Blue Spit.
So, this episode it went into a different direction by the end, but it ended in a way which I expected it to.
Right.
But yeah, so the episode starts off with Keiichi becoming paranoid, and pretty much he wanted to skip school that day. So, what's different about at the start of this episode is that his mom tells him to go to the clinic, which we never see him do like in the original. And when he gets there, he notices that the entire clinic is under renovation for whatever reason.
Yeah, I found that interesting. I wonder why they decided to change that. Because I was like, yeah, that's not in the original series. But you know, as we know, the woman, she works at the clinic along with another character. I think it was Dr. Irie. He hasn't been introduced yet. So I wonder, that's a little bit suspicious, considering she's missing too. But she also worked at the clinic, and the clinic's being remodeled supposedly. I feel like there's a reason that was thrown in there. Maybe there's something going on. Because it is really suspicious. Like there's all of a sudden, these guys are remodeling the clinic.
Yeah,
and I think it's like the only clinic in
it's
town. I'm not, as far as I remember.
That's what Keiichi says. He mentions that there's no other clinic other than the one he was going to. But then all of a sudden he decides to go to school anyway, and then shortly afterwards he gets into a conversation with who is it, Rika, and pretty much tells her the whole situation of what's going on with him and Rena. And how he's worried about what's going on with Rena, but Rika decides to tell him just don't worry about it, don't treat Rena like if she's kind of monster, just treat her better, and then hopefully things will improve.
This is another divergence from the original series too, because Rika never really confronts him about this in the original. In this first arc in the original series, we're pretty much led to believe that we're pretty much seeing things from Keiichi's perspective as well in the original, but we're also led to believe that, because everything is from his perspective, that pretty much everyone is crazy and they're out to get him. Whereas here, Rika tries to convince Keiichi that, that's not true. And I guess she has this conversation with him because she notices that he's apparently bothered by, I guess, what he thinks Rena is doing, may or may not be doing, I suppose. But yeah, that was an interesting divergence. I was wondering, because she had that conversation with Keiichi, if things would play out differently, and they kind of do, because as we will see later on, they don't exactly play out the way they did in the original series.
But yeah, so later that night, Keiichi comes back home. First off, the entire house is dark, and he notices both his mom and dad are not at home. And then he finds out, later, his mom calls him, tells him that they're both in Tokyo for business, and she tells him that that Rena's coming over to bring him some dinner.
Right after she tells him that, and it was here's her knocking on the door.
Rena's knocking on the door, but there's one other thing is come on, man, you could just at least turn the lights on in the house.
It's got to be all dark and spooky. You can't turn on the lights.
He's walking. It's okay, you can't just walk around in the dark like that without getting into an accident. But okay, whatever. You gotta make things spooky. But yeah, so he goes to the front door. He's still, at this point, he's still a bit paranoid about Rena, and then like he goes back he goes back to the conversation he had with Rika earlier in the day, and then he finally relents and then just opens the door
Well,
for
but
Rena,
before
and
he
then
even does
he
that
just
too, like the Rena tries to, like how she did in the original too, like she pokes her like you just see one of her eyes like poking through the, like somehow she manages to open the door, and
no, I don't think she opened the
she
door.
like
I think it
opened
was
it
just
a crack, like enough for her to like see through it.
yeah, but I don't think she opened the door. I think it's Keiichi just
like
thinking,
that's the thing with this arc. We're not really sure like how much is real and how much is not. She might not even have done that, as far as we know. But
no, I don't think she did that.
yeah, and he also I think we should also mention like he remembers again, but this time he remembers like much more of like what happens like with him bludgeoning both Rena and Mion, and it kind of drives like it kind of obviously bothers him a lot. So I still don't know why he's like able to remember that, but I mean he does. I was wrong about something I think I said in the last episode that he does actually remember what happened at the end of the original series. He does remember doing that, and he asks both. I think he asked Mion for forgiveness because he remembers that, but of course nobody else nobody else remembers that. It's just him. And it's kind of like the same thing happens here, which surprised me too, because I'm like, yeah, he does this, but of course it's much later near the end of the original series, or the first season at least, and it's not at this point in the series. And he also, the person he asked, he apologizes to is not Rena. It's I think it might just been both Rena and Mion in the original, but here it's just like he goes up to hug Rena, which I found like interesting because that's exactly what he does to Mion in like the near the end of the first season of the original series, and like of course Rena doesn't know what's going on.
No, she doesn't. But so of course Keiichi lets her in, just thinking things are normal. So he directs her to the kitchen to just set up dinner and stuff, but then Rena just unloads everything that she was carrying at the time.
Keiichi tries to open the thing she has in the she has covered up, and like I found it suspicious that she's like, oh no, don't do that. And then I was like, oh well, I know where this is going. And of course when she opens all the containers, they're filled with different weapons and blades and just torture instruments of torture, you could say.
Just hacksaws, handcuffs, like just a freaking knife, like every freaking thing you can torture someone to death with. And then like Cage is just watching the TV, but then like soon afterwards he goes into the kitchen, and then that's where things where shit really hits the fan afterwards.
Yeah, we see Rika, or not Rika, but Rena scratching her neck again.
Scratching her neck until it bleeds. And then Keiichi, pulls out a golf club to try and defend himself, but to no avail. Like, she just, charges at him, and then she was able to land a couple good blows on him by just cutting him on the cheek. And then Keiichi manages to, temporarily subdue her by just kicking her head to the back of the table, which I thought, she was I don't think she was dead at that point. I thought she was knocked out. Then when Keiichi, goes to check on her, she immediately gets back up and then just starts repeatedly stabbing him in the abdomen over and over and over again. Did you notice
they censored that part too? Like they had
the black.
I'm not sure why that was censored. Were they showing his entrails coming out or something? I'm wondering why they censored that. Because I mean, you see all the blood and everything, but I guess I don't know why they censored that one area in particular.
I mean, we've seen this happen before with other similar series such as this one, in which Funimation usually censors this stuff on their streaming services, but then it's uncut by the time they release it on Blu-ray or DVD. So I that's probably the reason why. But yeah, it's just she just like repeatedly just stabs Keiichi over and over again, and then Keiichi just
she stabs
and
him
then
like,
Keiichi, like,
I don't know how many times, but it felt like over 20 times she stabbed him, and like he's still like, just the fact that he even managed to move, like I was like, he should be dead at that point. Like there's no way. But of course he manages to move enough to like, try to defend himself. He picks up like an alarm clock and like hits her at the side of the head with it, and you think like that might have done her in, but she comes back from that. So he keeps like repeatedly hitting her with the alarm clock while like she's trying to stab him, and like he hits her multiple times, and like both of them should be dead. Like, it's just like, how does she get hit multiple times at the side of the head and not like really suffer much of a serious injury from that? And like I don't know, like,
I mean, I could assume.
Yeah.
I mean, I could assume that she's like that she's not in the right state of mind.
I guess
so
you could just say like it's adrenaline and all that, but I just don't know. Like it, and I mean, also not to mention, like, when she's stabbing him, like he's lying in a pool of his blood, and the blood is also like, it's completely ridiculous. Like his blood is like going all over the room, and like he's lost so much blood at this point, he should be dead. Like that's all the blood in his body is just coming out as she's stabbing him. It's a completely ridiculous scene, but it's like
literally by the end of it, like they were just completely
they were both lying in a giant pool of blood.
and then what's also unbelievable is that I thought that this was going to end up being, the timeline was going to end up resetting after this. Yeah, you would think he's dead. But then and then all of a sudden he somehow wakes up in the hospital the next day.
I mean, the only scene I find comparable to this is like in the original, I think it was in the original series, like when I think it was like Shion is like stabbing Sadako, like when she's torturing her, like she stabs her multiple times with, I think also with a kitchen knife, and like somehow like she's still not dead. Because like she stabbed her so many times, but somehow she didn't die from it, I don't think. Or like it took her a while to die from it, which is like, I don't believe that. Yeah, like of course, he wakes up again in the hospital, and we see his parents again. I find it like kind of funny, like how much we've been seeing his parents in this, like because his parents were like pretty much never there in the original series either. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, like he gets a visit from Oishi, who kind of like fills him in, I guess, on some stuff. Is he the one who told him that Rena was dead, or was that okay? Yeah,
that's what he
was. That
no. It was Mion who it was said that, and then like, well, he tries to inquire like what exactly happened, but Keiichi is still too traumatized as to what happened. So Oichi just like, just leaves and tells him that he'll be back another time when he's like fully rested. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we see Mion coming in to visit, and then she tells him exactly what happened to Rena, what happened like soon afterwards, after all of that. She tells him that Rena's dead somehow, probably because all that bludgeoning that Keiichi gave Rena to by hitting her with that alarm clock over and over again.
Yeah.
And then she reveals that Rika and
Sadako.
I keep Sadako, it's that they both ended up being stabbed to death in a similar manner.
Yeah, so it's like I guess Rena must have done that before she went to visit Keiichi. I think I just figured out like what the motivation for that was too, because I feel like she probably must have seen Keiichi talk to Rika, so maybe that might have been her motivation for killing her.
Yeah, that's probably the most likely scenario. Unless if Mion might have done it.
I don't think so. Sure. Like, because I didn't even remember this, but somebody mentioned like Mion doesn't kill anybody in the original series or in Kai. So I think it's just her sister that does it. It's Shion.
Yeah, I guess, but I'm just saying that maybe
it could have been though. Like,
could have been possible that she. Yeah. I mean, but I think it's likely. Yeah, I think it's likely that Rena could have done it. Like she killed them both like before heading over to Keiichi's house. So soon afterwards, like Mion takes off, and then a nurse comes in with all this medical equipment, and then she suddenly asks him if his neck is itching, and then all of a sudden Keiichi just scratches his neck, and then the episode, you just hear a loud scream from him, and that's where the episode cuts off.
Yeah. And him scratching his neck too is an indication of something known as Hinamizawa syndrome, which was revealed in Higurashi Kai. He Hinamizawa syndrome basically is something that is exclusive to Hinamizawa, where it's like a viral infection or something, and it causes you to hallucinate and become paranoid. And we know that both Rena and Keiichi had it, or at least we didn't know that Keiichi had it until now, at least. But we don't know if maybe he had it throughout this whole time, and he how much he was hallucinating and how much was real. And same thing, I guess, goes for Rena too. And those are the only two people we know that had it. So I mean that, yeah. But I find it interesting though that of course this did not end the same way that it ended in the original series, and it decided to diverge and kind of end in a very different way. I'm kind of wondering if there's a reason for that. I suppose it's possibly Rika trying to have things happen differently so she can get out of the time loop she's stuck in, or what the reason may be. It's hard to say, but
well, it's clear that that it didn't help in the end, considering the fact that even though it's like no matter what happened, or no matter what Keiichi tried to do in this episode, it was not going to end differently in any ways.
Yeah. But yeah, apparently in the next episode we're going this is apparently the end of this I guess this arc in the story, and the next episode there's I guess a new one's going to start, so we're basically starting the loop over again.
Yeah, it's called the Cotton arc. Yeah, so that's what I saw when the what was it, the title preview popped up at the end of the episode. So unless things are, I honestly I don't know how this is going to play out now that things are going in a much different direction.
Yeah, same. And I mean, a lot of the scenes we've seen from the series so far, were in the first in the trailer for it. So there's a lot of stuff that I guess is going to be happening in the in the next arc that we really haven't seen yet. So I'm interested to. Well, I think that maybe a few scenes with Shion. I think she actually might be introduced in the next arc, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought this was a pretty decent episode. I'm kind of glad that it did go in a much different direction than it did with the others, with the original series. So now I'm curious, how how the situation is going to end up changing now that Keiichi is I don't know, maybe Rika's trying to influence certain events to go in a different direction.
I think that's the most scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was a pretty decent episode. Some ridiculous things aside, it was. I really like how the confrontation between Rena and Keiichi sort of played out. It was creepy enough for the series, and so far I definitely am liking this. I mean, I'm liking the different direction. I'm just hoping there's a point to it. But yeah, so far this was a really good episode. I'm very interested to see where they're going to go with the next arc, because this arc did diverge quite significantly near the end. So I'm and there were some things that I was wondering about, so I'm wondering if they're maybe going to address that in the next arc, or if they're going to maybe explain it later. But I'm definitely interested to see where it goes from here. Don't really have anything else to say about it. It was a pretty good episode. I mean, pretty much all of these episodes so far have been pretty decent. Haven't really been disappointed yet. I mean, the only thing that I would just say I was really surprised when we got to episode 2, and of course everything was revealed that this is going to be a either a sequel or just something new. So yeah, but I don't really have much else to say about it. And I guess that all being said, I guess until next Thursday, we will see you all next time.